Hello everyone and welcome back to DIY with Ashley. Today I'm going to show you how to make an oversized or extra large scrunchie. I actually copied a pattern of one of my favorite scrunchies and used some silky fabric scraps I had, but you can use almost any light to mid-weight fabric for this project. It's super easy and makes a gorgeous voluminous scrunchie for your hair. So let's get started. The supplies you'll need for this project are a piece of fabric that's 7 inches wide by 22 inches long. You can also make it longer if you want more volume for your scrunchie. An acrylic ruler and a self-healing cutting mat, fabric shears or a rotary cutter, sewing clips and sewing pins. If you're going to be using silky fabric, you also want to make sure your sewing pins are appropriate for your fabric choice. A safety pin or a bodkin to insert your elastic, 8 to 8.5 inches of a 1/4 inch wide elastic. In order to get the perfect scrunchie size, I recommend measuring your favorite scrunchie and adding an inch to that measurement in order to get the length you need for your elastic. A sewing machine as well as coordinating thread, a hem guide. This tool is completely optional, but if you do have a tube turner, I recommend using it for this project. For step number 1, we're going to cut our fabric strip to size, making sure the edges are straight. Again, the strip of fabric needs to be 7 inches wide by 22 inches long. If you want more volume in your scrunchie, then go ahead and make it a little longer. That'll give it more fullness. Step number 2, you're going to fold your fabric strip lengthwise. Right sides together so the short ends match. Pin or clip along the long edge, leaving about 1 to 1.5 inches unpinned at each of the ends. This will allow us to close the scrunchie later. Step number 3, sew along the pinned long edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Again, we're going to leave 1 to 1.5 inches at both ends unsewn, making sure that we backstitch when we start and stop our seam. Now that we've sewn the long edge of our scrunchie, it's time to turn our fabric right side out. For step number 4, you're going to turn your fabric tube right side out, either using a tube turner, a safety pin, or any other method you prefer. This next step is optional, however, if you're using cotton or another fabric that wrinkles easy, you can give your tube a quick press with the iron to get out any wrinkles. I didn't need to do this with my silky fabric, so I skipped this step. For step number 5, we're going to go ahead and sew the ends of the scrunchie. Matching up the unfinished raw edges, we're going to line them up and pin. This part can be a little tricky since we're dealing with a small amount of fabric and it's sewn in a tube, but we're going to go ahead and pin everything in place and then take it to our machine and sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. This next part can be very tricky, so make sure you sew slowly and that you're helping feed the fabric under your foot as you sew that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now that our ends are sewn, it's time for step number 6, which is feeding your elastic through your scrunchie. Making sure you secure the end of your elastic, go ahead and feed your elastic through your scrunchie, either using a safety pin or a bodkin. For step number 7, we're going to go ahead and sew the ends of our elastic together. Overlapping the ends of your elastic by about 1/2 inch, you want to sew them securely with a few back and forth stitches. You can either do a straight stitch here or a zigzag stitch. My machine gave me a little trouble with the elastic and the stitches did not come out pretty, but the ends are securely sewn. For our last step, step number 8, we're going to sew our scrunchie closed. To do this, we're going to fold in the raw edges of the opening a 1/4 inch. Then we're going to match up our seam and use our sewing pins to hold everything in place. Then top stitch the seam closed about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, or as close as you can get so the stitches are neat but not too visible. Make sure you're using a matching thread for a clean finish. And also be sure to backstitch at the beginning and the end. Now that your scrunchie is complete, you can adjust your gathers evenly and your scrunchie is ready to wear. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It's a free way to support my channel and help me grow so I can continue to create more tutorials. To see more projects like this, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss any future tutorials. And if you'd like to support my channel even more, I also have a Ko-fi store where I share extra goodies for my supporters. The link is in the description box below. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy sewing!